This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. KCM Wealth Management. The Canadian healthcare system, while it needs all kinds of tinkering and improvements, no doubt, is still admired by many countries around the world, not including, of course, the Republican wing of the American political system. But it's pretty darn good an awful lot of the time. In terms of getting changes to it, Dr. Brian Day's name will come up over and over again because for many years, Dr. Day, the owner of Cambie Surgery Centre and the past president of the Canadian Medical Association, has been lobbying, arguing, fighting to allow some changes in the system such that a place like his, a private clinic, can be recognized and acknowledged and accepted as part of the continuum of service care. Of late, Dr. Day has raised the ante a bit. He'll explain that he's got a lawsuit, and one of the groups, one of the people joining him in the lawsuit is joining because of a particularly personal and dreadful story. Hello, Dr. Brian. How are you doing? Yeah, this story about Waleed is truly gruesome and miserable. I want to show this little piece first, and then before you and I get into any argument or discussion, maybe you can tell the whole story, how this began and where this youngster is now. Folks, I warn you, you're going to watch a couple minutes of video, and it's difficult to watch, but bear with it because it's an important piece. Here's the story of Waleed. 16-year-old Kelowna boy suffering from severe scoliosis, waiting, whatever it was, 2.5 years for surgery. Brian, first of all, let's just cover the basics. What is scoliosis?
Well, this is kyphoscoliosis. It's a curvature of the spine, a severe curvature. In Waleed's case, it began when he was, it was noticed when he was a young child, and it's just been followed, and it progresses. And there's a certain time when surgery is indicated, and he was actually on an urgent wait list for 27 months. And of course, you know the tragic scenario.
Yes.
He is now in a wheelchair, paralyzed for life, because of complications that he developed.
When I look at this piece of video, I'm trying to picture what the surgery, the positive, well-timed surgery might have done. Can you correct that?
Yes, it can be.
Really?
Well, not 100%,
Yeah.
but his spine was progressively increasing in severity over years, and as you approach the end of growth, that's the time to do it. At the time he was ready for surgery, on an urgent basis, he was listed at BC Children's Hospital,
Right.
and the wait was such that he didn't get in.
So what did his mom eventually do?
Well, this video was taken in July of 2000. It was made in July of 2011.
Yes.
Not this summer gone, the one before.
Right.
Waleed was riding a bike, playing on the beach.
Right.
As a result of the healthcare system's delays in British Columbia, and he at the time was one of 200 waiting. As a result of those delays, Waleed is now in a wheelchair for life, paralyzed. And
his mom took him to Spokane?
His mom ended up, I mean, this is another sad side to the story. It ended up that when Shriners, which is a non-profit US-based children's facility, learned of his demise and deterioration,
yes,
they offered to treat him right away. And
for free?
For free, yeah.
Right.
And what Waleed is part of a big picture, but an example like this just shows you, in my view, of all the people in Canada that should not be waiting for healthcare, children are number one. And his story is not unique. I was speaking to a spine surgeon just a few days ago who told me that about 10 or so years ago at BC Children's Hospital, a similar scenario happened, and he was promised it would never happen again, and here it is happening again. And you know, the problem here in Canada is that we are allowing patients, including tragic examples like Waleed, to deteriorate and become more severely disabled as a result of a system that isn't working.
Part of the Provincial Health Services Authority is something called the Patient Care Quality Review Board. Mm-hmm. Their report on this case was damning. It was very hard-hitting. And the chair of the Provincial Health Services Authority is no other than a local genius, Win Powell, who is Mr. London Drugs.
Right.
And he is, I've met Win many times. He's one of the smartest guys I know. And he was horrified by all of this.
Of course, and let's just expand on what the description you just gave. Win Powell would not be directly, Win Powell is the board chair. He wouldn't be directly involved in any of these management decisions, but there are more than half of the people at BC Children's Hospital, more than half of the patients, young children, are waiting a medically unacceptable period of time. Waleed is one extreme example, but this is something we need to fix. And as you said, the review board made a very damning condemnation of the way he was treated. And this was a mother who actually went beyond what, and Waleed's mother is a nurse, she went beyond what you can see from that video. She was making YouTube videos, phoning MLAs, phoning hospitals, and being told, essentially, stop bothering us.
Now, somebody who's watching this is going to say, well, if Dr. Day cares so much, why didn't he do the surgery?
Oh, well, one of the issues is, well, I'm not a children's spine surgeon, and there are only 2 surgeons in BC capable of doing this surgery.
Nobody at your center could do this?
No, no. And the backlog is due to the fact that resources are not there for surgeons. There has been a surgeon hoping to come to BC to expand this program of spine surgery, if we're talking about this in particular, for several years, and the facility, i.e. the BC Children's Hospital, has just not provided the resources.
Did they just recently hire one more? Or they're saying they're going to hire one more?
They said they're going to, but, but my information is that the person that was trying to come here for the last few years has decided not to come now.
Okay, Powell, who has another full-time job but is the chair of the Provincial Health Authority, he says Children's Hospital will now provide out-of-province and out-of-country care as options. Has this been in existence for a while, or this is a new, he's saying this is a new development?
Well, it may be, but let's face it, Canada is one of the richest countries on earth. This scenario of Waleed would not have happened in any other developed country, not one.
What would have happened?
He would have been treated quickly. We have a health system that is broken. It is a health system in which Canadians are spending a lot of money and they're not getting access. I mean, this is a country in which the Supreme Court of Canada came out and said that Canadian patients are suffering and dying on wait lists. This is unacceptable.
Now, there are people who do get immediate treatment, and that's people who are under workers' comp, but now known as WorkSafe BC,
right.
RCMP officers, armed forces members, and our all-time favorite category for immediate service, federal prisoners.
Yes, and of course,
so if Waleed had robbed a bank or shot someone, he could have been treated quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the problem is that we have a system in which the patient is not at the forefront of the system. We have a system in which Waleed and patients like him, when they go to an institution, are a cost to the institution. The hospitals in Canada are unique in the OECD in being funded almost exclusively with global budgets. That means that they get given, say a hospital...
X dollars.
Yeah, a hospital like Vancouver General will be given $1 billion a year,
right.
and no matter whether they treat 100 or 1,000 or 20,000 patients, that's their budget. So every patient that comes to the institution is a cost. This is a perverted system of funding a hospital. You want to have a system where the hospital structure and all of the functions are designed with the patient as their focus. That's not what we have in Canada.
And last night on 60 Minutes, there was a major story. The first story up at 7 o'clock was HMOs, private hospitals and so on, counting noses. I mean, trying to up the intake, whether people needed work or not, to 20% of where they were last week.
And this is the problem in Canada. When a hospital starts to run out of funding or resources, the way to save money is to not treat patients. By the way, this is nothing to do with private versus public.
I understand.
This is just to do with the way the public hospital is managed.
And we just have a moment before we break away here, Dr. Day, but in Kelowna, Waleed's mother, his family took him for examination and so on, and whoever it was, Fraser Health Authority or whoever is responsible for Kelowna, it took 10 months before they even saw anybody.
Well, this is not a unique issue. It's very common in Canada.
Okay, we'll take a little break, catch our breath. It's a difficult subject, but an important one. Just enough time to remind you that davidberner.com is the site to visit. We're always happy to receive your comments. And a moment to say hello to some of our friends who are kind enough to help us bring this program to you here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Back in just a moment with Dr. Brian Day. This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. KCM Wealth Management. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. Our guest is Dr. Brian Day of the Cambie Surgery Centre. It's a private clinic, and Dr. Day has been at the forefront of trying to get private clinics and other private services recognized as part of the Canadian health system. And we've been focusing on one particular story, but there are many. Now look, you and Waleed's mother and several other people have done what? You're suing whom?
We are going to the British Columbia Supreme Court.
Right.
There is our centre together with 5 patients.
Right.
There were originally 6, one of whom died. 3 of the patients are now children, and the 2 of the others are cancer sufferers who have all suffered under the health system in British Columbia.
And what are you charging? Whom are you charging? With
what we're saying is the government of British Columbia
yes.
Is acting unconstitutionally in that it forces patients to remain on wait lists and denies them a freedom that exists in every other country on earth. That is the right to buy private insurance or pay for private health care and bypass the wait list. So
what countries do you think have the best combined system? England and France?
Well, I think some of the European countries like France, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, Austria, these are countries in which patients don't wait. I mean, it sounds foreign to a Canadian, but part of and I'm not talking necessarily a public-private issue here. I'm talking about the fact that the systems are efficient. When a European study group out of a Belgium-Swedish entity ranked Canada's health system alongside 29 European health systems, we came out ranked 23rd. These are all systems that have universal health care, so it's not but they all have mixed hybrid systems.
Right.
We came out ranked 23rd overall on about the same level as Lithuania
Measured by
and Estonia.
What? Things like wait lists?
Wait list, access, value, quality of treatment.
Now let me ask you something personal.
And we came out last,
yes.
30th out of 30 in one category, value for money. So Canadians are spending a lot to get very little.
To get less. When was this? August 20th. Doctors protest private clinic as deadline to stop extra billing passes. So you had some doctors who don't agree with you parading in front of your surgery.
These are, well, there are 2 doctors,
yes.
and they belong to a group whom I consider to be acting immorally and unethically. They are promoting a system which the Supreme Court of Canada, not Brian Day, has said that is allowing patients to suffer and die on wait lists. They are promoting a system that keeps hundreds of, many more than hundreds of children like Waleed waiting for health care at BC Children's Hospital. They are promoting a system that is not working to the benefit of patients.
Someone much more cynical than I would say, watching this, well, he's just using the Waleed story to further his own personal cause.
I'm not using the Waleed. We had no connection with Waleed, and this was an individual who has suffered, one of thousands and thousands who are suffering, one of between 1 and 2 million who are on unacceptable wait lists. And I think it's important to point out that I don't believe the private sector in Canada can come up with a quick solution because there are no private hospitals. A small clinic like ours is not the solution. We need to evolve over a period of time, but right now, even our public hospitals need to be fixed so that they treat patients, and that's not what's happening in Canada.
What do you say to these doctors who paraded in front of your shop in the summer? They say, quote, what ends up happening with clinics like these is that those who can pay do pay, and they get to the front of the line. And then the good doctors don't want to work for VGH, they want to work for the Cambie Surgery Centres.
Well, what they really don't understand, and they are quite lacking in knowledge about health systems around the world, is we don't need to have wait lists. Therefore, you can't jump a queue if there is no queue. And in the countries that I mentioned earlier, there are no queues, there is no queue to jump, and therefore that doesn't apply. And the evidence throughout the world is that that the best doctors tend to stay around the big centers where the universities are and so on. That's always been that we don't have to study that, we don't have to guess that.
Just the
it's
way
what
it
happens.
Is. Yes. Yeah. 130 some patients waiting for spinal surgery at the moment. Those numbers are down for some reason or other. There were more in the past. Is it just that I have been lucky that I personally have not had this kind of experience except once when I think I wanted an x-ray or something and people said you'll have to wait weeks and I just said no?
Well, there are a lot more than 130 waiting. That is just the people who have seen the doctor, been diagnosed, been told they need surgery, and are put on the hospital waiting list, and then have been accepted onto the wait list. There are a lot more patients. One of the problems with the BC health system and the measurement of wait lists is we don't measure the wait before your file is sent into the hospital for an operation, which is bigger than the wait once you get into that sector. I said the problem is that we have a system that is focused on the system and not on the patient. And we need to make the system accountable to patients and empower patients. And that means having the funding follow the patient. I can tell you for critics of ours is that if you eliminate the wait list, which is what my goal would be in the public system, and I'll reiterate, I don't think the private system in Canada can do it because there is no significant private system. It has to be through improvements in the public system right now. I still say there's a role for the private sector because you cannot trust a government monopoly to serve people well in any field. One of the things I like.
Rude question. Are we top heavy?
Well, I'll just address that one. But what I was getting to, the ultimate result of if I succeed in getting the wait list down would be that private centers like ours wouldn't have as much business. And yeah, but we are top heavy. Canada has one public health bureaucrat for every 1,400 Canadians. Germany, a country with universal health care and no wait list, has one for every 15,000. We have 11 times as many public health bureaucrats in our system.
It's unbelievable, which is to say that a hospital, a regional hospital in Canada has all kinds of vice presidents of something or other, of cups and saucers and bacon and eggs.
I used to have a slide that said, why does the Vancouver hospital need 9 vice presidents when the United States can get by with 1? Canada has 14 ministries of health. France, with double the population, has 1.
Has 1, yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need a Ministry of Health probably in BC. You can just have the Ministry of Finance send the money to the health regions and eliminate maybe $500 million. I don't know how much. But
I know you have a lot on your plate, but if in your spare moments you should check out how we handle addictions and mental health in BC in terms of how many departments mess about with those issues. How can we change this? If you had the magic wand, if it were yours for a day, what would you do?
Number one thing I would do is make the system efficient, and patient-focused funding, where you instead of giving global budgets to hospitals, you attach the funding to the patient, so that if Waleed, for instance, needs an operation that's worth that might cost $30,000, $40,000. I don't know the exact cost of that. That money would be attached to him, and you'd find the BC Children's Hospital would want to treat him quickly, because without treating him, they wouldn't have any revenue. And that's number one. Number two, every monopoly needs competition. That if we only had the CBC in the media outlet, or we only had a single newspaper, it would not be serving the consumer
What do you do
well.
with fools like me who say, well, you know, Dr. Day, I went to VGH and I had 2 angioplasties, and I don't know what those are worth, but they got to be about 20 grand each, and it cost me bupkis.
Well, a recent study shows it actually costs you $11,000 a year in Canada.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that many patients who need that type of procedure in Canada are not getting it in a timely manner, whereas in those other countries I mentioned, they are. And yes, I mean, but right now, apparently 72% of patients in BC are meeting provincial guidelines, which benchmarks, which sounds good.
Yeah, it does sound
not
good.
if you're one of the 28% that aren't. And that's where we, you know, it's this cup half full, half empty. 28% of patients not reaching provincial benchmark guidelines is not good.
We have 1 minute left. If you win in the Supreme Court of BC, what will you have won?
We'll have won, we'll have emancipated the Canadian people. They will have the same rights that they have in every other country on earth.
A suffragette, and at your age. Dr. Brian Day, thank you so much. Terrific stuff. All right, folks, that's it for this conversation. Next week, we're doing a repeat show. The studio is dark for some reason or other. So we will replay for you our conversation with Alan Twigg, the head of BC Book World. Is publishing dead, or has it just gone up into cyberland? Thanks for being with us here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Good night.